course I know motherfuckers want to kill me.
Hey, y'all, man, they done shot FBG Duck in the Gold Coast of Chicago, bro.
A rap argument turned into a full-fledged FBI murder probe. As this video reveals, and Durk sanctioned the hit that killed FBG Duck. Authorities in the federal government are officially linking Lil Durk to the death of FBG Duck, one of the most horrifying drill impacts ever seen on tape. So let's get started. In case you are unaware, allow me to briefly outline the actual events that took place in Chicago's drill politics. We're talking about two of the most important characters in the game, Lil Durk, who belongs to O Block and the Black Disciples, and FBG Duck, who is representing Tuckville and the Gangster. Disciples the details of the story that have been revealed via government investigations. Civil litigation and court documents present a darker picture than Hollywood could have ever imagined. This was more than just a feud between rappers over bars and beats, family. The gang politics involved had been simmering for over a decade. Durk's collective, a family that police are now categorizing as a criminal organization, is the sole entity mentioned in relation to planned strikes, alleged bounties, and a conspiracy that reaches the ultimate levels of The date that permanently changed the drill scene in Chicago was August 4, 2020. While on the Gold Coast, Carlton Weekly took part in the outside a Dolce & Gabbana store. Duck shot himself to death in broad daylight while shopping for his son's birthday. A bystander and Kushake Williams' fiancé were also caught in the gunfire.
Hey, y'all, man, they done shot FBG Duck in the Gold Coast of Chicago, bro. In the Gold Coast of Chicago, bro.
It gets really weird from there, since the lengthy complaint that Duck's mother sent to Lasha. Weekly suggests that this hit was more than a street fight gone wrong, controlled from the top, with King Von allegedly placing a $100,000 wager on Duck's death and Lil Durk serving as OTF's puppet master.
Our complainant law lays out that a $100,000 bounty was placed on the life of FBG Duck to have him killed.
When 6 O Block members were convicted by Charles Legends of Duck's murder in January 2024, the federal authorities took the matter seriously. Speaking of Durk killing Duck on camera, not everyone is referring to a small group of smokers. These were Durk's men, his soldiers, who were ostensibly following orders from the highest echelons of the F leadership. Charles Afford, Robertson, Ralph Turpin, and Kenneth Thomas Christopher. No, they're referring to the full digital trail of evidence that prosecutors have been gathering, which includes social media posts, music videos, phone logs, and lyrics that allegedly show how this whole conspiracy was planned, executed, and then celebrated. For example, King Van showed her the O video, which was made public months prior to Duck's murder and features Van's character executing Duck. This was allegedly part of an intimidation campaign to make Durk terrified before they actually took him out, according to the lawsuit, rather than being a piece of entertainment. Prosecutors said the 350 million view YouTube video was a threat. Although the streets were previously aware of the hostility between O Block and Tuckville, the accused use of Durk's resources and connections to transform street disputes into a corporate conspiracy is what truly makes this case exceptional. What we're discussing are record labels, such as the involvement of Ralph Turpin, adds to the strangeness. This case purportedly involves Sony, Universal, Alamo, and Empire, all of whom are accused of profiting from real-life street violence while ignoring the consequences. One of the alleged gunmen apparently contacted a phone number associated with Durk's brother, Dang, right before Duck was discovered and killed. This was reportedly a well-planned operation with continuous communication rather than just a chance street contact. The murder of FBG Duck was more than simply another casualty of gang fighting in Chicago, as it was purportedly a corporate decision taken at the top of one of the most prominent hip-hop collectives. Even if the hood has been talking about this for years, the courts are only now beginning to understand it. In order to understand why things escalated out of control, let me look at the level of disdain that Duck was exhibiting before her death. After Duck's death, they performed the same. The song made fun of the deaths of particular O Block members in Chicago's drill culture and questioned their reputation on the streets even after they passed away. According to the prosecution, this is the most serious infraction, which is why Duck was singled out. In effect, he was rapping and spitting on each headstone as he walked through Obelisk Cemetery. By weighing the benefits and drawbacks of terminating one of its primary rivals, the complaint contends that F leadership made a prudent business decision. This is not your typical street beat. We're not talking about some irascible young man who gets emotionally swept up in the scene. It was alleged that the business goal made murder both profitable and intimate. It takes teamwork to accomplish this. Whoever had the authority to provide permission must have been monitoring the Ducks' movements. It is corporate-level criminal activity, not street-level reasoning. For shooters to risk life sentences in a whole company that stands to gain from the aftermath of a death in broad daylight in one of Chicago's wealthiest neighborhoods.
2 vehicles pulled up. 4 individuals exited those vehicles, 2 from each vehicle, and began firing at the individuals that were on the sidewalk outside of one of the stores.
Every YouTube video, Instagram post, and Twitter conversation is evidence in a RICO case. And the same platforms that made these singers famous are also being used to document their alleged illicit activities. The case's social media component illustrates how modern criminal schemes play out in the digital age. That one that F was operating as a criminal organization, according to the lawsuit, and planned and funded street violence using resources from the music industry, profiting from the mayhem they created. It keeps adding up like building blocks, each piece of proof proving that F is more than just a music collective. This really heightens the tragedy of the story. Duck apparently tried to change his life before he died. Both the streets and the federal government don't seem to be supporting this case. When he honored the members who had passed away in his 2019 song, Chicago Legends, some believed he was attempting to make atonement. 102 instances over the 229-page case, indicating the prosecution's conviction that money and influence were the main factors. The defendant allegedly made money from every music video viewed, every social media post honoring Duck's death, and every stream of a disparaging song. The argument these days involves more than just 2 artists. It's about the music industry is accused of turning street violence into a profitable business model by endorsing singers they knew were engaged in real criminal behavior. This is because controversy sells and authenticity pays. The story grows. Much more complex, though, as we prepare to learn more from the digital and physical trails. After setting the stage for what happened, Footprints has the power to change how we think about drill rap and street politics. This brings us to federal probes, wiretaps, and a computerized surveillance system, along with barbershop gossip. Lil Durk is connected to one of the most horrifying daytime murders in Chicago history, which makes the paper trail quite unnerving. Piece by piece, the feds have been building this conspiracy theory, and each piece of evidence demonstrates how they found this case. They were a criminal outfit that pretended to be a record company, and we're talking about a level of planning and organization that goes beyond the typical street beat.
These individuals murdered Mr. Weekly as part of their effort to maintain or increase their position in the O Block.
Instead of being just a trash song, the prosecution contends that Durk's 2021 song Should Have Ducked was a victory lap. The lawsuit claims that Durk was not just playing word games when he said, "She asked me how high I get. I told her, high as a duck. Take advantage of ducks passing by utilizing the murder as publicity." But it's not just one song. Although they do not view the words of Durk's 2024 song, Monitoring Me, as artistic, else prosecutors view it as a confession. One of the lines is, "I have killers for all my friends. I don't have to pay anyone to do anything." Did you remember Durk's tweet that said, "Rip Nusky on the same day Duck got killed"? The timing was noted by the streets and investigators, and The pattern of social media activity before Duck's death is supposed to show a planned murder. Durk allegedly acknowledged that he had a group of shooters working for him. The social media evidence is even more damning. After the reaction from F members who appeared to have anticipated it, the King Von angle is where the entire scenario really comes together. Van was allegedly both Durk's artist and F's underboss, according to the lawsuit, and he was charged with organizing hits and putting bounties on heads. There was more to the 350 million view video Took Her to the O than just amusement. What is most intriguing about the purported public threat against Duck's life is found in the phone logs. The fact that Ralph Turpin, who gave the O-Block gunman Duck's location, had a phone number associated with Dang Durk's brother and purported lieutenant was no coincidence. During this concerted attempt, contact apparently took place up and down the F chain of command. The case demonstrates how F went viral by promoting Duck's murder, but it's not just about the money. It also focuses on the purported marketing of violence. Streams and views allegedly turned into profit for Durk and his gang each time Duck's name appeared in a song or his death was brought up in an interview. According to financial documents, the links with the record companies, who allegedly used a scientific approach to turn street credibility into commercial gold, the more real the violent altercation. The more attention they received further complicate this scenario. Instead of being only the product of street politics, Duck's killing is claimed to have been a business opportunity. The titles are Empire and Universal Alamo, accused of purposefully profiting from violence, while disregarding the unlawful actions of its musicians in the case, according to the lawsuit. These companies employed singers with criminal histories since sales are driven by publicity and authenticity.
The killing and then the celebration of the killing and the continued killing, all on the name of profit.
Allow me to clarify the actual complexity of this alleged scheme. The case, according to the prosecution, was not about a few petty street vendors trying to treat meat in a traditional manner. Multi-million-dollar business that allegedly worked with big labels for distribution, touring, and merchandising, and used legitimate organizational structures to plan and fund illicit activities, committing acts of vandalism against deceased O-Block members and serving as fronts for what the prosecution describes as an ongoing criminal organization, arguing that a pattern in the timing of occurrences shows intent. Apparently, information gets to F leadership when the Took Her to the O video supposedly threatens the public by putting a price on Duck's life. Duck is then found and killed in broad daylight. That day's story is self-explanatory, and the time and place suggest that this was a pre-arranged operation.
Hey, y'all, man, they done shot FBG Duck in the Gold Coast of Chicago, bruh. In the Gold Coast of Chicago.
This was not just a music problem. It was a personal one. As evidenced by the trial witnesses for the 6 O-Block members who described the continuous harassment and intimidation from F members, the O-Block snipers were able to locate Duck while he was on the Gold Coast, which is far from his usual range. 'Tis not by chance that this degree of intelligence, collection, and coordination occurs. Durk's subsequent arrest for murder on more serious mafia-related allegations makes this case much more intriguing. It was purportedly orchestrated from the top down and was methodical, as evidenced by the federal government's RICO approach. In this case, prosecutors contend that street gangs and record labels have merged to create hybrid criminal organizations, treating F like organized crime. According to reports, Durk called the shots from behind the scenes during the same alleged retaliation for King Von's death, which was intended to use F resources. The feds are using Quando Rondo's shooting to highlight a pattern of behavior that purports to show F as a continuing criminal organization. Duck's mother filed a civil case in an attempt to establish a pattern of unlawful behavior that extends to the highest echelons of F. Durk was stripped of his honorary key to the city of Broadview, Illinois and his local Heroes Foundation lost its partnerships after the music industry reacted to the 230-page document, which reads like a federal indictment and contains specific accusations about him allegedly using his platform, money, and influence to plan violence against his rivals. Durk's famed streets are now questioning whether the cost of his notoriety was worthwhile. One can still feel the consequences of the case, the fallout, and its ramifications. The fact that the community starts to turn away from you is a clear indication of how serious these charges are. The street response has also been the subject of illuminating social media posts, which depict a community that is both weary of the violence and defensive of its own. The claimed breadth of this plot and its consequences for drill rap's future were demonstrated by the news that went viral in Chicago's streets and throughout the music industry. One of the most well-known hip-hop artists, according to the prosecution, was accountable for a pattern of violence rather than a single murder. Admittedly, Durk apparently cheered Duck's death rather than simply letting the feud go. The Duck song accused Durk of disrespecting Duck and using his death for financial gain. After hearing the lyrics, Duck's mother, Luca Weekly, became outraged and organized, which led to the civil case that is now threatening to bring down F in addition to Durk. The civil complaint names major record labels and even the city of Chicago Ducks, demonstrating the amazing range of its legal strategy. Their portrayal of institutional failure goes far beyond street politics. They allege that the labels exploited the violence, that the police were hesitant to respond, and that they planned it all.
As a company, when you realize that you have a dangerous product and you pushing that dangerous product out to the public, you have a responsibility to ensure that that dangerous product does not injure or hurt or harm anyone.
It could not have come at a better moment for the prosecutors in the Duck case when Durk was arrested for the Quando Rondo murder. When the feds apprehended Durk in Florida, they were not only charging him with a single crime, but also establishing a pattern of behavior that allegedly shows F as a continuous criminal enterprise. Not to be overlooked are the similarities between the Duck murder and the Quando Rondo hit, both of which are purportedly related to bounty. When Durk raps about having killers as friends, prosecutors are using his own lyrics against him. They are also utilizing these lyrics as evidence when he mentions specific killings, demonstrating how hip-hop collectives may function as modern-day criminal syndicates, since both were purportedly covered with Durk's fingerprints and were payback. For past deaths, the government is reportedly using the same tactic they employed against organized crime groups. This is a confession to the federal government, not a form of artistic expression, as murders in his songs are being used to demonstrate his knowledge of and involvement in illegal activities. The ramifications of this case go well beyond Durk and F, which is why the music business is keeping a careful eye on it. Prosecutors could transform the music industry. They can demonstrate that record firms encourage and support musicians with criminal records, thereby being complicit in acts of violence. While there is still hope for healing amid all of this legal drama, people are also waiting on justice to be served for Duck's death on the streets. Responses from the community have been complex, showing that the dads of Durk and Duck recently banded together to advocate for peace. Sony, Universal, and other major labels are being sued on the grounds that they are effectively accessories to murder. The case's staggering financial ramifications, including millions of dollars in sales from performances and merchandise, were linked by prosecutors to Duck's murder. Additionally, social media posts and conversations that allegedly show cooperation among F members at the time of Duck's murder add to the evidence that F profited from violence each time a song about Quek's murder was streamed. The line between criminal confession and artistic expression is blurred more than ever in the world because digital evidence of a conspiracy is hard to erase, now that they are aware that what they say in their songs could be used against them. In court, young musicians are paying more attention to the lyrics. The effect on the drill scene in Chicago has been significant. the timeline that the prosecutors have been painstakingly constructing purports to depict Durk's involvement from start to finish. As drill rap has gained popularity in the UK, and prosecutors in New York and other cities are monitoring how American courts address the link between music and criminal behavior. Durk's mother has transformed from a distressed parent to a significant change agent thanks to her advocacy work. Drill rap places great importance on authenticity, which might become a legal issue if courts rule that record labels can be held responsible for the criminal conduct of their artists in a system that purportedly makes money off the deaths of young black males in Chicago. The precedents established by the federal government's handling of this case have the potential to drastically change how companies sign contentious legislation. Is a new phase in their approach to fighting organized crime, which sees criminal families as hip-hop collectives. Prosecutors are changing RICO rules to take into consideration modern circumstances when criminal groups use music and social media. Instead of conventional mob tactics, the apparent collaboration network keeps growing, encompassing everyone from street shooters to executives at big labels. The prosecution says that F planned a bigger pattern of violence, of which Durk's murder was but one aspect, as this case moves through the legal system. Due to the systematic nature of the alleged transgressions, this case is currently extremely dangerous for all parties. As federal investigators continue their investigation, F's future is at risk. This illustrates how both legal and illegal activity can be a part of contemporary criminal organizations. The drill rap ecosystem is already feeling the commercial effects of this case. Other musicians are distancing themselves from the violent jargon, and record companies are being more cautious. They contended that Durk's conviction on these charges could result in the demise of one of the most successful independent labels in hip-hop and serve as a warning to other musicians about the dangers of combining street politics with the music industry. Tighter security protocols. Authenticity has become more costly than helpful. This case is particularly significant because it forces the music industry to acknowledge its role in profiting from real-life violence, along with making them pay. The action against major labels aims to make them understand that their business plans sometimes depends on the lawsuit filed by Durk's family. Basically makes the case that there is no genuine distinction between financing a real crime and the music industry's right to make money off of true street stories without condoning the violence they portray. Performers who actively commit crimes. Where does funding controversial art become funding actual crime? If Lil Durk's and F's criminal activity is what makes them genuine, the case will likely have far-reaching effects. If prosecutors are successful in demonstrating that hip-hop collectives can function as criminal enterprises and that record labels can be held responsible for the illegal acts of their artists, the music industry's operations may be significantly changed. The outcome of the lawsuit could be the difference between the system holding those who profit from violence accountable and the cycle of violence that has taken so many young lives. Chicago's streets are keeping a close eye on this case because Durk's murder was reportedly not just another victim of Chicago's violence, but rather a calculated business decision. Taken at the top levels of the music industry, authenticity may finally be too high a price to pay. The most successful independent hip-hop labels were actually a criminal enterprise that used resources from the music industry to fund and coordinate actual violence, as evidenced by the mounting evidence that the music industry operated as more than just a music collective. A story about how illegal activity has permeated the music industry. Not just about two rappers, Fighting A's federal prosecutors continue to solidify their case. This brings an end to our extensive research on the industry. Watch this space for additional delicious content, such as this incredible subscribe button. Kindly click the bell to get alerts. Watch more videos by looking at the cards that are on your screen. Please remember to comment so we can hear your thoughts.